All right, it's 8:30. Let's start. Very good evening, and I welcome you guys to the People and Organization module briefing session. This session will be covering 4 interesting areas, which will help you to prepare your assignment and also to understand this module better. Right. Before we start, I need to alert you that this session, you guys need to participate. A lot of areas you need to share so that you can understand better. So Chong is also joining. Now, before we go to the main areas, let's recover this the learning outcomes of this module. There are 4 main learning outcomes supposed to be achieved end of this module. Out of this, the first one is to analyze the effect of psychological and social process on individual and group behavior, especially on the organization. I'm sure all of you know that the impact of individual and the group behavior on the organization plays a very vital role. Secondly, to demonstrate the ability to incorporate insights of various influential theories, management and organizational behavior in this work situation. Right, the influential theories like motivational theory, Mars theory, culture, etc., etc. These are the theories you need to understand, and you need to see how these areas influence, these theories influence in the organizational management. The third learning outcomes you need to achieve is to diagnose the cause, consequences, and implication of organizational decisions, right? And the actions to bring out improvements in the organization. You see, decision is very important. Anyone who fails to take the right decision at the right time will definitely lose, definitely suffer. For example, if pilot in an airline or in a plane while he's running over while he's riding, if he makes any mistake, the outcome, we can see it immediately. Because if pilot makes any mistakes, the result can be seen within few seconds or few minutes. In the same way, if the manager or the leaders in the organization, if they make mistake, there's also some causes, some distractions, some failures, which it takes longer time, sometimes 6 months to 1 year or a few years to see, because of the right decision not taken on time, what are the massive the havoc has caused, right? The last learning outcomes is to learn on how organizational changes affects all aspects of organization, right? Sorry. From the individual to the group and to the structure and culture of the organization. This is important, and we'll be covering this area as well. Now, this is the syllabus or area of your study for this people and organization. Out of these, the most important 4 areas to me is the most important. You must read. We'll be covering today's session. Out of that is the first one, the management and applied behavioral science approach, managing in rapidly changing world, how the individual behavior impacts. So we will be covering this, and we'll also be covering the leaderships, the teams and groups, and the organization culture. These 4 areas we'll be covering. The rest you guys need to read by yourself, and there are a lot of notes in your student learning portal. Right? Just this is a reminder that this assignment you need to submit by 15th of January, which is next month, and the timeline is a UK time, 12 midnight. Now, let's look into the Mars model or the individual behavior. If you look into the word Mars, the word itself, it means individual motivation, individual ability, individual role of perceptions, and the situational factors actually, what do you call this, develops individual behavior, how the people will behave. So the behavior or individual behavior depends on the few factors, basically 4 factors in the Mars model. So while you're answering the assignment 1, you can relate to this model, right? So number 1 is motivation. If a person is motivated, he feels good. Sometimes you see the organization, they use, they organize a team building program, or if they perform better, they do an increment, a letter of commendation, etc. The motivation can be in many ways, right? Then it directly impacts the individual behavior and the performance of the organization. Ability, all right? This is always a challenging thing for HR manager. Right person at the right position, and you need to see before recruiting whether the person got the ability to perform. If the ability, it doesn't have the ability or the proper ability, so he or she might not be able to take the task was given or to perform. Now, role of perceptions, individual role of perception, right? There are in many cases whereby the perception is different. It depends from country to country, culture to culture. The role of perception, if there is a wrong perception, this will always impact on the individual performance or individual behavior. So this is an important for a manager perspective to explain better, so that the role he or she is going to take is very clear, transparent, and then understand. If there's any ambiguity, if there is any unclearness, then they won't be able to perform, and it will impact the individual behavior. And the last one is situational factors. There are many cases that situation moderates the individual behavior. If the situational is like this, that the person is bullied in an organization, or in a situation that needs support but not getting the support, right? So the person or the individual will get upset, demotivated, and then producing less, and the performance will go down, right? So these 4 factors are motivation, or the individual motivation, of person's ability, the roles of perceptions, individual behavior, and situational factors. Mainly the situational factors is very subjective. It depends from the organization to organization, place to place, and company to company, the situational factors. But this also plays a very crucial role to develop individual behavior. And again, the individual behavior, when it is positive, the person can perform better, ending up with more production, more productivity, right? So you guys understand the Mars model. Do you have any question before we move to the next topic? As I said, you guys need to participate so that you understand better. Okay, Paul said no. You can unmute and talk. You need to give your input so that you can get better. Right. Now, the basic psychological model, the basic psychological needs. Now, the behavior, we can't see the behavior, right? The person, the way they act, sometimes we call the way they behave, is actually his or her functions. It can be individual behavior. Sometimes the environmental behavior also got. Sometimes we see that it's hot, very hot. So we say that environment is very rough nowadays, very hot. So environment also got behavior, individual also got behavior. In the same way, in the organization also got environmental behavior and the person behavior. You see, the organization culture in Malaysia is different bit different from Singapore. Where you go to China or Japan or European countries or even US, the culture is different. So the individual behavior is also different, right? And there's a law of effect that the future behavior, how the person will behave or act is in a function of his past consequences, right? Let's say tonight they are not getting, or there's a fight, or somehow the person is upset. So you can see that tomorrow in the office, the person behavior in a negative way. On the other hand, if a person got a good news or some motivation or some increment or some other way he feels positive, you can see the positive vibrant in office the next day. That's why they say the law of effect is the future behavior is a function of its past consequences. So the past, if depending on the past experiences, if it's good, the behavior will be in positive way. If it is not, it will be negative way, right? So bear in mind, this is an important thing. Employee motivation. This is very important, and I'm sure all of you know that it is an internal forces that affects a person's voluntary choices of behavior. So it leads mainly to direction, intensity, and persistence. Motivation is internal forces, bear in mind, and we can't see, but the outcome of motivation is very obvious and very clear, right? So the employee motivation is also one of the part of the individual behavior, how he or she will be behaved. The next is the employability, the natural aptitude that and learning that capabilities of required to successfully complete a task. So what is the ability? Employability is the natural aptitude and learned capabilities or learned capabilities or person capabilities which require to successfully complete a task given. When you are assigned a task and you have the capabilities to do it, to perform it, and to complete on time, this is your ability, right? That comes up with the competencies, expertness. A person characteristic that leads to a superior performance. So when you are given a task and you can perform it, you can manage it well in a better way. So that is your competencies. And a person on job matching, so you need to look into the few things: selecting, developing, and redesigning. So these are the things when you need to look into when you are recruiting a person, right? So you need to check the employee's ability. So this employability or employee motivation, or all other components of the Mars model. Next is the role perceptions, right? It's a belief about what a behavior is required to achieve the desired results, right? When you are given a task and you know what is the expected outcome from the management, from your boss. So if we go more and more deeper, what is the role of perception? It is an understanding of what the task to perform. It is also an understanding relative importance of task, and understanding that preferred behaviors to accomplish the task within a stipulated period of time, within the time you are given, right? And the situational factor, the last one. Situational factor means the environmental condition beyond the individual's short-term control that constrain or facilitate their behavior. At times, the environment in the office is beyond the control of an individual, right? It can be the timing, it can be the people, it can be the budget, it can be the work facilities, etc., etc. These are the situational factors. These also impact an individual behavior, right? So if I sum up this Mars model, right? So we find motivation, we find individual motivation, individual person ability, the role of perception, and the situational factors. These four things develops an individual behavior, how he or she will behave, right? This is the main thing of Mars model. So before we move into the next topic, which is our leadership, do you have any question?
So far, no, sir.
All right. Now, Paul, maybe I start with you. What do you understand the leadership, or who is leader? What is your understanding?
To me, a leader normally motivates people and will guide people to success.
Ling?
A leader is the one that, from my understanding, is they motivate people to a certain goal.
Right. Chong, you'd like to add anything?
Leader is like to guide us how to do the thing, give our opportunity to improve ourselves.
Right. So all of you are saying that the leader is the person who will guide us to achieve the success. Yeah. Now, this is true. The part of the leadership is, that to guide. Now, we have leaders in our organization where we work. Our immediate boss is our leader. And we also have leaders to, in a country, like a prime minister or the president, right? They are also our leaders. Now, there is always an interesting question that are the leaders born that the way what to do, or they learn the leadership behaviors, right? So the question is whether the leaders are born or leaders are developed. It really depends. If I give some examples, like the Singapore, the prime minister, the ex-prime minister Lee Kuan, and the prime minister in other countries, or maybe the US president like Joe Biden now, and the previous is Donald Trump. And if we look into the leader like in Korea, all right, Jong Nam-on, then these are the country leaders. So you see, when I pronounce the name, you already know the difference, how they lead, right? Again, we can also give some examples from the corporate leaders like Steve Jobs, like Joseph Bezos, the Amazon leader, CEO, Mark Zuckerberg for the Facebook and the social media is a CEO, right? So these are the leaders. So you understand who is the leaders, and if you look into this, all of them, corporate or the country leader, all of them are leading, some of them leading their country to achieve success, and the corporate leaders are leading their organization to achieve success. So this is, there is no question about that. The leaders are always leading or guiding their subordinates to achieve the success. Now, there are two things. Leaders, they have traits and some behaviors we will discuss in our next slide. The next is there anyone the best way to lead all the in situations? So again, we have two types of leader, like universal leader and contingency leaders. And how much should we, the leader, allow the subordinates to participate in decision making? This is very, very crucial and interesting questions. Sometimes the leaders, they designate the job, their subordinate to decide. There are leaders, they do not allow their subordinates to decide. The leaders, they themselves, they want to take the decision. And the last one is, how can we improve the leadership? Yeah, let's look into this. Now, the types of the leadership theories, we see based on the traits and based on the behaviors. And applicability side, we also find the universal leadership and contingent leadership, right? Perhaps we start with the universal leadership. I'm sure that all of you heard about the name of Nelson Mandela, all right? Or Mahatma Gandhi. These types of leaders, they are known as universal leaders, right? Right. They are long time. The way they lead, it look like universal. Whereas the contingent, if we give an example from the Malaysia, like after Mahathir, Tan Sri Muhyiddin, he came in, and then he was a very short period of time. So he was like a contingent types of leader. So based on the traits, we have two types, type 1 and type 2, type 3. And then behavior, we also got type 2 and type 4. So if we explain what is type 1 and type 2, we say the traits theories. The traits theories, these types of leaders are self-confident, and they are persistent. They do not predict actions well. They also do not explain how the traits translate into action. Whereas the universal theory, the theories, they said research disapproves. I mean, there is no fundamental theories behind that. Whereas contingency style in the theories is most relevant today, right? The leaders, the country leaders or the organization leaders, we can see the contingency style is more relevant nowadays in the organization. They always plan. If a person cannot perform, who will be next? Who will be next? And in between, if there's anything happen, what is the plan B? Even in the COVID situation, all the organizations have an alternative plan, right? Now, traits that generally differentiate leaders from non-leaders. The traits they like to drive. These types of leaders like to take the drive. They have desire to lead. They have honesty and integrity, and they are very self-confidence, the intelligence and job relevant knowledges, right? Basically, now we are discussing about the leaders in the organization. There are some people, they like to take the initiatives and like to take the challenge, whereas there are some people where we know as introvert. They are comfortable in their own jobs, and they do not have any desire to lead or take initiatives or to drive, right? So those who have these characteristics, those types of leaders are known as traits. So the traits theory, they find out or they identify these few points. Now the basic leadership styles that is in type 2, 3, and 4, we categorize into 2. Category 1 is initiating the structure, and they are job centered. They are very concrete for the production, task oriented and directive. Whereas in category 2, we see that they are very considerate. They are very employee centered, then the result oriented. They are concerned for the people, and the relationship oriented, and they are supportive. So these are the 2 categories based on the 4 types of leadership theories, right? Now, again, the leaders, what is leadership? The ability to influence the people toward the attainment of organizational goals, right? Some of you said the guiding people to achieve the success, basically the same. Organizational goals is to achieve the success, right? Now, what are the personal characteristics of a leader, right? Why you need to know these in the organization, right? One of my ex organizations said, if a cannot match up with their immediate boss or immediate reported person, the person really cannot work under him or her, right? Therefore, you need to understand the personal characteristics of leader, right? So physical characteristics, got the work-related characteristics, the social background, right? Intelligence and ability, the social characteristics, and the personality. This is an important task for the manager, the organization. Before you hire a person, you need to check all these things. Why physical? Because if a person is weak and cannot do not have a physical strength to take the challenges, he or she may not perform. There are certain jobs, especially in the manufacturing industries and all those who are supervisors or leaders, they are heavy work. So you need to see the physical strength level. The same way when you go to the Army or Navy or the Air Forces, you also need to see the physical characteristics. Otherwise, they won't be able to perform. Of course, there are sectors that physical strength level is not that much important. Right? There are different industries. Work-related characteristics that you need to check on: achievement, drive, desire to excel, the consciousness in pursuit of goals, the persistence against the obstacles, tenacity, etc. The work-related characteristics is important. You also need to check the social background and the education, the mobility. I'm sure the more or less all organizations check the social background before hiring. Intelligence and ability, there are many types of tests they do, the HR people do before selecting a person. All right, some they do an aptitude test, cognitive ability or the knowledge and judgment, decision, etc., etc. There are some social characteristics you can find in a leader, like sociability, interpersonal skills, cooperativeness, ability to enlist cooperation, tact, and diplomatic. This is very important to me in a sense that these characteristics, if they don't have any leader or manager, the subordinates do not feel positive, vibrant to work in organization, right? So this is important. And the personality, the self-confidence, the honesty, integrity, enthusiasm, and desire to lead and independence, etc., etc. So these are the characteristics of a leader. Then we can find out what types of leader he or she is. And the behavioral approach that helps determine leadership effectiveness. Right? Now, consideration, behavioral describing the extent to which the leader is. A leader is sensitive to subordinates or open to subordinates. A leader respects their ideas and feelings of their subordinates or like to take the decision by themselves. A leader who establishes mutual trust or they do not trust. So behavioral approach, this is an important thing. Behavioral approach continues the type of the leader, right? The behavioral that describes the extent to which the leader is task-oriented or result-oriented, direct to subordinates work activities toward the goal, attainment or not, or he always focuses his own or her own. Now, I'm sure that you all have heard about the groups and teams. Paul, do you like to say what is your understanding of group and teams?
A group does not involve a lot of people, say a couple of people.
Mm-hmm.
And for a team, it involves a few people, quite a number of people.
All right. Lynn? Your understanding of groups and teams, yeah.
Yeah, my understanding is similar with Clarence.
Mm-hmm. How about John?
The group is like a small group. So the team is, they have a different purpose and everybody have different responsibility. They know what they want to do.
All right. Thank you all. You see, the definition, like two or more persons who are interacting in such a way that to each other influences and influenced by each other, that is, they said group. So it is two or more. One person cannot. Team, a group of people committed to a common purpose. You see, the difference is a group of people committed to a common purpose. Now, one person also can be a team. Set of performance goals and approaches for which team members hold themselves mutually accountable. Whereas in a group, is they themselves responsible or accountable, and in a team members, all of them are responsible. So you see, the more the difference is team and work, a group, how they work. They have the goal and collective performance in a team. So in a team, all of them do working for a common goal. Whereas groups, they share the information. The synergy level in a team is a positive, and in a group is a neutral. If we see the differences, more differences, you see, in a group has a leader chosen by the team members or the group members, whereas the team, sometimes they don't have any leadership, or each of them take their own leadership. Group individual accountability, whereas the team accountability is mutual and individual both. So team, they have accountability, all of the members and also the individual level. Whereas the group, the similarity between the goal and the organization and the vision and mission of only for the special team. The group, they do individual work, whereas the team, they do a collective work. The effectiveness is measured by the business effect indirectly for the group, whereas the effectiveness is measured by the directly and collectively. In a group, discussion, decision, delegation of a work for individual, whereas in the team, the discussion, decision, and sharing of the work. So it's a shared level, right? Now, this is the interesting thing, huh? You see the types of work for the teams. Some teams are problem solving, some teams are functional, some teams are technology based, who are working on a virtual level. Some teams they like to self-managed, and some teams are cross-functional, right? You see that there are 5 different types of teams. Now, would you be given an example for problem-solving team? Do you think any one of you can give an example, a real-life scenario? Paul, you like to try?
Sorry, sir, could you repeat that again? Just now my internet
I mean,
was
that's okay. I say there are 5 different types of teams, and the first one is the problem-solving team. Do you have any idea or any team you know that working in a problem-solving basis, or what type of teams are they?
If it were an organization, I think I would say Google.
Google, right? Yeah, they are doing the problem solving. In fact, a problem solving team, it can be any organization, right? All I want to know, let's say, are you working anyway, Paul?
No, sir.
Right. Now, those who are working in a customer service, let's say from Malaysia, we give an example of Daisy or Maxis. Each of them have an individual team, and every day the people are coming in with a problem, and they like to work in a team to solve the customer's problem or customer's issues. It goes even for the TM. We have the customer care unit, whereby a team is specially designated to solve the problem. I'm not sure whether you guys have any experience or not. If you see the person you go to, who attending first, if he or she fails to solve the problem, then immediately escalate to the next person. So the manager, so probably their supervisor, they come and involved in solving their issues. So this is one of the examples. Now, the other types of team are functional. Any idea, Lin or Chong, what is the functional types of teams?
Each of the organizations, they have different departments, then and also like HR department, account department, then their function is different.
Right. You give a very good example, the accounts department. In an organization, they are functional. I mean, each of the team in an accounts department, let's say 4 or 5 staff are working under one manager or supervisor. So this is a functional team, and they do day-to-day operation, right? And they are not involved with any problem solving things, right? And we have virtual team. You guys, any idea, anyone of you, what is a virtual team?
It involves technology.
Like to give an example?
Like we're using Zoom and Microsoft Teams, for example.
Right. A very good example of this virtual team is Lazada or Shopee. Nowadays, you cannot call to the call center to complain or no, with any issues to solve. What you do, there's a they call it bot. It is sometimes is a WhatsApp bot or sometimes it's chat bot. You just type, then one of the person from their side they attend, and then try to solve your problem virtually. I'm not sure whether you guys have any experience or not. So these types of teams are known as virtual teams. We have next is a self-managed team. Self-managed team whereby the team is responsible without escalating their task to their superior. They themselves are responsible to settle their issues, right? There are many. If let's say a sales team, when you go outside in a work in a road show or in any fair, they try there maybe the 4 or 5 members they try to solve by themselves, and they do the self-management, right? Cross-functional. There are teams which is cross-functional whereby let's say 5 or 6 members and they communicate to each other and try to achieve their team's goal. So this is known as a cross-functional teams. Now, group dynamics. What is the group dynamics, and why the groups or teams are failed, not effective? There are 2 things. So let's look into the group dynamics. The group norms are the informal led rules and that the group adopt to regulate and regularize of the members' behavior. When a group is formed, sometimes there are unwritten laws or unwritten regulation being formalized. So that is the group norms. And the group cohesiveness, the degree of interpersonal attractiveness within the group, depending on the factors like proximity, similarities, attraction among the individual group members, group size, intergroup competition, and agreement about the goals. So all of the factors just now I mentioned, it actually contributes to achieve the success of an individual group. This is also known as group cohesiveness. If the team member or group members doesn't understand each other well, so there will be issues. If they do not agree to each other, there also will be a problem or issues. If the group size is too big, also difficult to manage, right? And if the group member cannot depend on each other, there are issues, and there won't be any cohesiveness. End of the day, the group won't be dynamic. They won't be able to achieve their objectives and success, right? Now, what it takes to be a team player? What are the key factors to be a team player? In other words, the leader in the team. So you should have these skills in order to be a team player. Personality, individualism versus collectivism, right? If a person always focuses on individual, I, he or she cannot be a leader, cannot be a team player either, right? So the team player is always be collectivism, the focus on the shared values, the mutual benefits. Interpersonal skills, the team player or the leader should be able to conflict the management skills, to collaborate the problem solving skills, communication skills, they must have. If he or she fails to communicate with the team members effectively, and if there is any gap arises, fails, he cannot be the team player. There will be more issues. So we see the personality skills, the interpersonal skills, and then the last one is the management skills. A team player or leader must develop and establish the goals. So if you see any sales organization or sales department, in the morning, there's always a briefing. So they set the target, they set the goals to be achieved every day, weekly, monthly, and quarterly, right? They should be able to control, monitor, and provide the feedback. A team player must be able to give the feedback. Feedback is very important thing. If a person or any member of the team not doing good, or there is some other issues, should come and consult and to guide how to improve. Otherwise, they won't be able to perform, right? And end of the day, they will be out of the team. He or she also need to be set to work roles and assign tasks. equally. So while setting the works or setting the roles, he or she cannot be judgmental, cannot give, I like you, I give you less. I don't like you, I give you more. So these are the management skills. So a team player or good leader, the organization, they must have personality skills, they must have interpersonal skills, and the management skills. These are very important. Now, the role of the team members. So the role of the team members is to be creative, to be innovative, to explore or to promote, assess the developer, the trusteer, take initiatives in the organization, the concluder producer, right? They should be control the inspector, examines and details the enforcer's roles. They also should uphold the maintainer, the fights with the external battles, right? And they should be reporting to the superior a timely basis, encourages such for more information. And they should also be able to the linker in a sense to coordinate and integrate the information to their to their team player or the leader. Now, the challenges to create a team players. What are the, because we don't have much team players, or an organization is always looking for effective or skilled team players. So what are the challenges in order to create these team players? We find that managers attempting to introduce teams into organization face the most difficulty when the individual employee resistance to a team is strong, right? Sometimes person resistance is a very key factor that don't allow them. And a team player should always be flexible, should be able to take everything in a positive way, cannot be racist. Where the national culture is individualistic rather than collectivist, right? The national culture. In Malaysia, we have the Chinese race, Malay race, the Indian race, all right? So in organization, we should always focus on the national culture rather than the individual culture, right? And the third challenge is when an established organization places, right? When the organization is established, sometimes they feel that we are done, we are the best. So these types of sense is also very challenging to create the team players. So the biggest room in this world, the room for the improvement. But when you feel you feel that our organization is the best, we are the best. So that kills you. That will that won't be able to make you, to be a good team player. Now, so the teams and groups. Do you have any questions so far? Before we move into the next topic, is the organizational culture.
No questions, sir.
All right. How about the Lin and Chong? Is any question? All right. Now, organizational culture. Do you have any idea what is the culture? Then we go to the organizational culture. Paul, you'd like to share?
For me, culture defines every human being. It's like take movies, for example, because every movies that were made were in different countries, and we get to explore the culture by watching them, by watching the moving pictures, and to see and to discover the culture from each of the films.
So that is the country culture. Now, do you have any idea what is the organizational culture?
A culture based on the organization.
Right. How about the Lin and Chong? You would like to add anything?
Is it the morals within the organization and the people and their practices? Yeah.
All right. How about Chong?
Not sure.
Okay. Now, of course, the culture in a different country got different culture. Again, the races also got different culture. For example, in Malaysia, the Chinese race, they have their own culture. They celebrate Chinese New Year, whereas the Malay, they celebrate Hari Raya. The Indian race, they celebrate Deepavali. So this is a culture, the individual race culture or the country culture. Now let's look into the organizational culture. Now, the way we work in Malaysia is very, very different from the people who are working in Middle East countries. The culture is different. Here, the organization culture, we take the weekend and Saturday and Sunday, whereby the Middle East countries, their weekend is Friday. So it's a part of the culture. Now, if you look into the Australia, you see their culture is different. By four, they're already done with their work, and by 6, all the shops are closes. You know, there's a different culture. Some of the organization, they call their colleagues and even the superior by name, whereby in the organization culture like in India or Pakistan or in the other countries like Nepal, Sri Lanka, to call you by name if you're superior is like a crime. See, so different. Again, another interesting culture of an organization. Some organization practice the salary payout is let's say 30th of the month. Every 30th of the month the salary is paid. Whereas some organization they practice 7th of the month. It's a part of the part of organizational culture. Whatever it is. So culture provides a very sense of identity to the members and increases their commitment to the organization. Culture is also a sense making device for organization members. Culture reinforces the values of organization. A culture serves as a control mechanism for shaping the behavior. Why the culture is very important? Now, let's say the oil and gas company, if they, for example, Petronas, if they go and try to find a new, what do you call the mining in the Middle East countries, the Malaysian culture is a bit different from there. So they have to follow their local organizational culture. So, and similarly, in Malaysia, you see there are a lot of Arab restaurants. So in the Arab restaurants, when they come to the Malaysia, they have to follow the local culture. So culture is important. We need to understand and we need to respect each culture. And sometimes people can be very offensive if they do not or if they find it people are not respecting my culture, right? But if you want to work in a multicultural organization, right, there are many companies in Malaysia like HP or Samsung or Dell. These are the IT sectors. There are what do you call Johnson & Johnson or Unilever. These are multinational companies. Even though their culture in US is different, when they come to Malaysia, they have to follow the local culture. Similarly, if a new Malaysian company, they want to go abroad, they have to follow their local culture, right? So these are the functions of organizational culture. If a person fails to understand the culture of the organization he or she is working, there will be mess. I'm sure that he or she might not be able to continue in the long term, right? This is very sensitive in terms of their values, their beliefs, and sometimes people they portray the culture in a way that if other people doesn't respect, they means doesn't respecting themselves. So they are very they get very hurt, and many things and many issues arising, right? So the organization, the culture is also one of your topic in the second assignment, right? Now, theories that relationship between the organization culture and performance is a strong culture perspective, fit perspective, and adaptive perspective. What is the strong culture? An organization culture with consciousness of values that drive the company with an intensity that is recognizable even to the outsiders, right? When you go to the Muslim organization, the way they dress up, it can be recognized. So very strong culture. So on the other hand, the organization culture, you see the dress is different. So it can be recognized from the outside, right? So that is very strong culture that you have to follow. The local culture, doesn't matter from where you are, you need to follow. So that's the strong culture. And the strong culture facilitated the performance because they're characterized by goal and alignment. They also create a high level of motivation because shared value by the members. If you look into the Malaysia also, the Chinese-based company, they like to, of course, there are different races, but when there are many Chinese people, they can communicate to each other. The productivity is higher. Similarly, Indian company, sometimes they use their mother tongue and all, their productivity is higher, right? This is one of the benefits if you have a strong culture. They provide control without the oppressive effects of the bureaucracy. Sometimes each other, a bit of weakness they absorb, they cover by them, each other. Now, what is the fit perspective? A culture is good only when if it fits the industry of the firm's strategy. As I mentioned, that when an Arab restaurant comes to Malaysia, they have to follow the local culture. So that is the fit perspective. They don't have any other options, right? Even you see the McDonald's in Malaysia and McDonald's in Singapore and in Thailand is different because they have to follow the fit perspective of the organization culture, right? And the benefits of the fit perspective is the competitive environment. They also need to fulfill the customer requirements and societal expectations, right? When they fulfill the local culture requirements, they get this competitive edge or competitive benefits. Now, there are culture like adaptive culture, an organization culture that encourages confidence and risk-taking among the employees as a leadership that produces changes, focuses on the changing needs of the customers, right? So that is the adaptive culture. Adaptive culture means although your culture in the home country or in different situations completely different, but when you come to a new environment, you have to be adaptive, right? You cannot practice your own culture. A good example can be the multinational companies, right? I give again the example of Unilever. Unilever, the way they're packaging their product in Asian countries like Pakistan, India, Bangladesh, and all, is very different. The packaging their products in Asian countries, or in the Middle East countries, or in the Western countries, because they have to be adaptive in the culture of the local culture. So we found that the strong culture, fit culture, and also the adaptive culture. So this is all about the organizational culture. There are three things: the strong culture, the organization, they believe in this, and they have some benefits. And there are organizations which are fit perspective. They look into the situation and they follow it. And there are organizations which is adaptive. Doesn't matter what is the actual culture it is. Whenever they go to the new environment, they adapt it. They adapt to the new culture, right? So more or less we are done. So we have covered the Mars model of the individual behavior. We also look into the leadership and the theories of leadership, the trace theories, and universal and the local theories. We also covered about groups and teams, and the last one is culture. These are the 4 areas. When you cover, you should be able to answer your 2 assignment clearly. Now, do you have any question?
So just one question.
Yeah, go ahead.
So basically the assignment is more about like the study of the mind of people in the organization, is it?
Yes.
Okay.
Now, let's be more specific. Paul, I share one of the assignment 1 and 2. You can ask the more specific question because your question is too general. So Let me share you. Okay. Can you see my screen now?
Yes.
Can
All
sir.
right. You see, the assignment 1 is about, you can choose any organization you like. It doesn't matter. That's why I said ABC. And then you need to answer these 4 tasks. See the benefits of working at a teamwork or individual. So you have your own perspective, your own way to answer it. And of course, when you answer, then you explain what is team, what is the groups and teams, what is the individuals, right? So you explain a bit and then answer. And the second one is analysis of teams might fail to their objectives. What are the reasons? So I'm sure you should be able to answer this now after this session. An evaluation of the impact of the leadership styles on the teamwork, right? And then the last one is analysis of the application of the effectiveness of the teamwork with the given organization, right? So these are the 4 tasks, 2,500 words. So Paul, your question is here or the second assignment?
The second assignment, sir.
Okay, can you see my screen now, the second assignment?
Yes, sir.
Okay. The second assignment is the task 1 is to state the organizational vision mission. So before that, of course, you need to identify an organization according to your convenience. And before identifying or selecting the company, you must confirm that you should be able to get some information from there. You have the access, because second assignment, they are saying state the organization vision mission. So this task A is very easy. You select a company and take out their own vision mission. Doesn't matter. It's very easy. What are some of the organization dominant values, norms, rituals, beliefs, language? I mean, these all are the part of the culture of that organization, right? So if you don't have any access, you won't get this information. Third one is, are the vision, mission, objectives shared by the employees? I mean, what types of leader they have? Are they autocratic, or are they what you call they are sharing the leadership of their the company you are selecting? The last one is how are the decision actually made? I mean, the managers when they take decision, how they take by themselves, or they have discussion with it. This is also part of organizational culture, right? Paul, any other questions?
No, sir.
How about Lynn and Chong? Any question? No question. Okay. Now, if you guys don't have any question, like the other class, fill up this form. It will take 1 or 2 minutes. Then we end our today's class. Basmi, once you are done.